Welcome back to our Save a Seat series here on Patreon. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you to my guests today for joining me on our Dig Deeper series. I have Carla and Danielle. We are talking more about mental health in the workplace, how important it is for us to check in with ourselves and find out if something is the right fit or if we could maybe use a change, and the resources that we can use in our lives to make sure that we are doing the best for ourselves and our minds. So thank you so much for joining me again, Carla and Danielle.
You're welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, I'm so glad that we get to sit down and have conversations like this with people that it directly affects or who work in that field. Carla, you told us a little bit in our last episode about how you do this for a living. This is your thing. You love talking about career happiness and tackling this problem with people. And you talked a little bit about how you got into the field. And Danielle, you just started a new position that is perfect for you. It's dream job. So that's definitely a peak, but we also experience valleys in our jobs as well. Even if it's a position that we think that we love, you know, sometimes you can get a year down the line and have a valley, and it can be unexpected. So I'm glad that we can get into this a little bit more here. Let's start with you, Carla. If you just want to talk a little bit about this topic and maybe some of the resources that you love for people.
Yeah, no, I think, it really is such an important topic. And it's something that, like Danielle said, where you spend all day, every day actually truly matters. And so I love that more and more companies are actually recognizing that it is a whole person approach, and it's not just your business self, and you can't just, check your problems at the door. And especially now that we're doing more work from home and, our pets are around us, and sometimes kids or whatever. But I think it's also really important to talk about the deep darkness that can come in. And it can happen to anybody. I mean, it's happened to me. And so I've been shocked by that, of the times when that has occurred in my life. And the number one thing that you absolutely have to have aligned, and Danielle, you spoke about this earlier, is your values. Everything else can be great, but if your values are not in alignment, and not just what they say they are, but what they actually act out, if you're not aligned with the values, it's never, ever, ever going to work. No matter how great everybody around you is. And so we've got this deep alignment of needing to, like, our souls know what we're here to do. We know what we need to be doing. We know what our gifts and strengths are. Even if we don't know it, we know it. And so when you're not doing that, even if you don't quite know why, it's just like needle off the record scratch, like you just feel horrible. And I mean, I have even seen people, and myself too, crying before you go into work at a place, because it just is not at all what you want to be doing. And so it's so important to listen to that. And all, much of mental health, I won't say all, but so much of the mental health challenges comes from that dissonance and not being where you're supposed to be. There's a wonderful resource called Internal Family Systems, which is actually you monitoring and paying attention to what you're feeling inside. It's a beautiful graph. It's a really great way to understand if you're feeling this or that or that or that. You can kind of see where it is, but it's so, so, so important to be aligned. And I know we've talked a lot about career happiness and finding a place you love, and all of that's great. But I actually found over, years and years of research that there's 4 things. It's a 4-part career happiness formula. And so number 1, yes, absolutely something that you love, but that's not enough. And so then you also have to do something where you can bring your best strengths and contribute what you do best, which is amazing. But those 2 are not enough either. So then you've got to have something to hope for and grow. That's why so many people at the beginning of their career or their job, they're like, oh, this is awesome. And then after they master it, they're like, okay, now what, And so you need that for sustainable career happiness. And then the 4th element is the one that changes the most. That's actually what I help with in my book, is that your top needs and priorities, which change because you're at different phases in your life. So you might be young, or you might be starting a family, or you might have just gotten married or divorced, or, whatever. And so your priorities actually change a lot. And that's the part that changes the most. And so that's why you have to keep realigning and recalibrating with what fits best for you right now. It doesn't have to be for the rest of your life, because there's no such thing. But now and next is what I help people focus on.
Yeah. And I really love that, because I think it's so important for people to check in with themselves and self-analyze. And definitely part of that is that you're going to change. Everybody experiences things throughout their lives that change them, or they just grow up, change their mind about things. So what you need when you're 20 is totally different than what you need when you're 40. And being resistant to that change is just going to make everything that much harder.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also so important to connect in a deep, more meaningful way than most people are used to connecting in their organizations. And especially with now remote work is everywhere all the time for most people. And then we already had challenges of different departments and silos and people not communicating across, but now it's even more important. And I know, like the Gallup Q12, the survey about the different ways that you can fit and belong and feel like you're connected and part of the team. And one of those questions is, do I have a best friend at work? And so, Danielle, you talked earlier about your family and their friends and their lifelong friends and that sort of thing. And that can happen, or it can not happen. But if you know what you are looking for and you know what you're bringing to the table as well, and then I actually have a program that connects people in 3 different ways across the organization to have some of those little touch points, like micro lessons and micro learning and micro touch points, where it doesn't take a lot of time, but it is such a great way to connect and build those deeper relationships that we're not used to even having those conversations at work.
Yeah. And it's so important to build community. We can self-care ourselves into the sun, but we can never escape our need for friendship and community. So finding that at a place where you spend most of your time is invaluable.
Right. And then we're also all built so differently. And that's what StrengthsFinder and everything is all about. So we can't master everything. We've got to master the things that we do well, but also connect in with a team. And it can be your actual team, but it can also be more of like a virtual team, or just people that you surround yourself in your life and have kind of your virtual board of advisors, if you will, because it's really important to get different perspectives. And so another resource is the Wealth Dynamics Assessment. There's 8 different profiles. It's kind of similar to StrengthsFinder, but it's also very, very different. And it kind of is the beyond. I used to do a program, and I still can, called Ignite Your Strengths, which is DISC and strengths combined. So DISC is how you communicate, and then strengths is what you communicate. Yeah. But Wealth Dynamics takes it all so much further. And it's also called Talent Dynamics if you use it within an organization. But there's 8 different profiles and 4 different energies. So you've got the starting point, the creator energy, the spring energy. That's also where ideas start or companies start. It always starts with an idea. And then you go from spring into summer. And so that's like the blaze energy, and it's the star and the supporter that kind of get it out in the world and amplify it and start bringing people around it. And then you come down to harvest, and that's the deal maker and the trader and the people that are like actually accumulator, really accumulating the wealth. And then you've got the steel, and that's the fall energy, the tempo is what they call that. And then the steel energy, or the winter energy, is the rest of the square is what is it? Well, I think accumulator's there. And then Lord, which is like a person who's moving things around and like kind of being the mastermind of it all and figuring out how to build scalable systems. And then the mechanic makes it from good to great and makes it even better and fine tunes it. And so your idea goes around, your company goes around, and then the team is all around. And so when you have somebody in each position, it is the strongest possible team. And it's a really important way to go. And one of the things I even learned from myself when I was out networking, I am a blaze energy. I am a star. And so I was meeting all these creators and stars and supporters because we're the ones out networking. Right. So I kept not getting to harvest or winter, because I wasn't building the systems to like get more and go scaling. And, and so I have all these people all excited, and we're all like, yeah, let's do this. This is a great idea. And then we couldn't quite round the corner until I finally learned what I was doing wrong.
That's such an interesting concept, though. And you're so